Idam Vishnur Vichakrame Treda Nidate Padam Samudamasya Bhagum Sure Trini Pada Vichakrame Vishnur Gopa Adabhyaha Atho Dharmani Dharayan Vishno Karmani Paschata Yato Vratani Paspase Indrasya Yujjasaha Tat Vishnoho Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaga Tat Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sasamindate Vishnoho Yat Paramam Padam. A very profound declaration from the Vedas. The Vedas have a special liking to one particular avatara. All avatars are celebrated across the Vedas, but there is this one avatara which fascinated rishis, and we find this avatara celebrated across Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda, and across the Upanishads too. The avatara of Vamana. Vamana Avatara continues to fascinate us because through this avatara, Bhagavan enables us to conceive him in ways that would have been otherwise impossible. The human mind has always been attempting to conceive the absolute truth, that supreme being. And in that process, we see glorious descriptions of the nature, the Swarupa of Bhagavan explained in our Shastras. But through Vamana Avatara, Bhagavan vividly gives us the required imagery, the required visualization to conceive him, to conceive his nature. Now, Bhagavan, he underlies everything in this creation, which means he is the substratum. He is the substratum that supports everything that is created. He not only underlies, he also oversees. Being the substratum, he supports, and at the same time, he also governs. He oversees the affairs of this cosmos. He governs the workings of this cosmos. He is the lawgiver, and through his inescapable laws, the universe works and there is perfect order. So we see this world is beautiful. It is beautiful because there is perfect order, perfect harmony, because it is being overseen by the very embodiment of perfection. So he underlies, he oversees. The Creator also pervades. He pervades everything that he creates. Why does he pervade his creation? It is through his pervasion that he supports and sustains everything that he creates. And his pervasion is also a constant reminder to us of our intimate relationship with him. He pervades his entire universe. He pervades us from within and without. And he also permeates and pervades our hearts. Now, Bhagavan, he permeates everything that is there in this universe. He then spreads everywhere, he pervades. And then, through that pervasion, he also possesses everything. We must understand that that which pervades an entity possesses that entity. Bhagavan is the ultimate possessor, or should we say, he is the only possessor. No, the Jivatma also pervades and permeates his body. It is through its pervasion, the pervasion of the consciousness, the body is being sustained by the Atman. Now, the Paramatma pervades and permeates every entity, including the Jivatma. And it is through this pervasion that it possesses. And therefore, when we recognize that Bhagavan pervades our hearts, we must also recognize that this pervasion is for possession. He is longing to possess us too. Of course, he possesses us, but his longing is not just for possession, because he already possesses us. But his longing is for us to recognize that possession, because we are possessed by everything else other than Bhagavan. In our madness to possess things in this world, we all become possessed. And in that process, we forget the only possessor. So he underlies, he oversees, he pervades, he permeates, he possesses. And all of this he gloriously demonstrates in the Vamana Avatara. So this is why the Vedas are fascinated by the Vamana Avatara. We see several segments where this Avatara is vividly described. In many ways, the Vamana Avatara shows us Bhagavan's purpose of the descent. Interestingly, it's not just a descent. This is a descent that eventually turns out to be a combination of descent and ascent, because he descends and then starts to ascend as Trivikrama, showing us, demonstrating one very important truth. The smallest form can hold the greatest truth. Vamana Avatara is the ultimate cosmic audit of ownership. And Bhagavan frequently keeps auditing. He audits the universe, the workings of the universe. He takes check whether Dharma is in order, if everything is in order. And Vamana Avatara is the ultimate cosmic audit, because he had to ensure the restoration of order again in the universe. Now, we may all wonder sometimes, what did Bali do? He did not really do much of a damage. All that he did was he just usurped Indra's position. That's all. He did not go about, he was not a wicked Rakshasa like Hiranyakashipu or a Hiranyaksha or any of those other Rakshasas who went on creating havoc everywhere. He was a very just, able ruler. He was a great Bhakta too. In fact, Bhagavan himself celebrates Mahabali's glories. So Mahabali is unlike any other Rakshasas that we know. After all, he belongs to the lineage of Bhakta Prahalada. So therefore Mahabali, therefore we wonder, what did Mahabali do? We must also know Vamana Avatara is to not crush Mahabali. The Avatara is to crown Mahabali's surrender. Bhagavan did not crush Mahabali, rather he crowned Mahabali's surrender. Trivikrama took 3 steps to restore, to reset order in this universe. These 3 steps, we can look at it also in a different way. So 3 steps, he gave us 3 very important messages. Step 1, act with humility, act humbly. Step 2, expand infinitely. Step 3, bless abundantly. These are the 3 steps of Trivikrama. When human power inflates, humility has to incarnate. Vamana Avatara is Bhagavan's Avatara in the humility. Embodiment of humility is Vamana Avatara. That is why we celebrate Vamana as Uttama Purusha. he did not just measure the three lokas, the three worlds. Vamana actually measured human ego and he found it wanting. Measuring three lokas is also very easy, but measuring human ego is not very easy at all, even for Bhagavan. He had to take Vishwarupa to measure the size of the human ego. So again, great lesson we also get through Vamana Avatara is how humongous a human ego can be. It was essentially Mahabali's Maha-ego, which had to be cut down to size. So in many ways, therefore, we see Vamana Avatara giving us a very important lesson in terms of how Bhagavan repeatedly restores order in this universe. The best way to relish Vamana Avatara in a nutshell is to relish how in Dasavatara Stotra, Vedanta Desika glorifies Vamana. Vrida Vriddha Vadanya Danava Yashona Sira Dhati Pataha Trayaksham Makutam Punannavatu Nastraivikramo Vikramaha Yat Prasthana Samuchita Dhvajapati Vrittanta Siddhanti Bihi Shoto Bihi Surasindurashta Sudisha Saudeshu Dhodhuyate. Beautifully explains, it seems when Vamana, one moment was Vamana, Bhagavan was at one moment was Vamana, a small form, a little boy, instantaneously transformed into Trivikrama and started measuring all the lokas. When his one foot started to measure the Urdhva loka growing in size, it seems it was the foot that was going across, traversing through all the Urdhva lokas, Bhuhu, Boha, Soha, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. It looked as though it was a flag that was carrying the flag of Bali Chakravarthy, spreading across the glory of Bali all across the Urdhva lokas. It says Bhagavan was keen to spread Bali Chakravarthy's glories because all the devatas did not understand his true glory. It looked like Bhagavan's foot that was traversing to the Urdhva loka looked like a flagstaff holding the flag of Bali Chakravarthy. Then when it reached Satyaloka, then when Brahma washed the foot of Bhagavan, then it is then when Ganga took birth and eventually it landed on Paramashiva's head later. So we see how in many ways the Uttama Purusha is being celebrated because Vamana is popularly called Raksha Vamana. He not only protected Indra, he also protected Mahabali. This is the beauty of the Avatara. He did not punish Mahabali. In fact, he glorified. He spread the glories of Mahabali across all the lokas. When one essentially does a quid pro quo with other, I will help you if you will help me. No, I will give, before I take and then I give. Such a person is called Adhama Purusha. We find in this world, in this loka, only Adhama Purushas. Essentially, everything is a transaction. Giving comes after taking. Sometimes. Taking happens all the time. Sometimes giving can come. So if somebody is giving after taking a lot, that someone is Adhama Purusha. And then above in the ladder is a Madhyama Purusha who gives selflessly, who goes without seeking anything in return. Such a Purusha is Madhyama Purusha. Possibly we can count a few in this world. But then who is a Uttama Purusha? The Uttama Purusha is one who keeps giving to such an extent he does not mind belittling himself in the process of giving profusely, abundantly. Bhagavan is Uttama Purusha exactly for this reason. If he is not Uttama Purusha, long time back he would have stopped giving to us. Because just imagine, we keep helping someone constantly, regularly, day in and day out, constantly giving, even if they are not asking. And just imagine they just don't care. They ignore you all the time. They would come sometime, someday, when you will say, get lost, and you will walk away, isn't it? How much patience is needed to put up with someone when you keep giving selflessly and get nothing in return? Instead, get only contempt. This is what Bhagavan has been getting from us. Not just in this Janma, for all the Janmas in the past, but he still keeps only giving abundantly, belittling himself. He does not mind being ignored. He is Uttama Purushas Tvanyaha Paramatmeti Udahratahayo Lokatrayamavishya Bhivatti Avyaya Ishvaraha. The imagery of the shloka from the Gita is provided by the Vamana Avatara. No, it looks like when Krishna was defining who is that Purushottama, he defined Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, and then he had to define who is the Uttama Purusha. There are three types of Purushas that Krishna was explaining to Arjuna. Kshara Purusha, the Baddha Jiva, who is constrained by mortality because of the association with Prakriti. Akshara Purusha, the one who is above Kshara Purusha, who has won over the bondage of matter. But Uttama Purusha, the Paramatma, who is also called Paramatma, he pervades and permeates the realms of both the Kshara and the Akshara and transcends. And how did Krishna give this definition? Possibly he was thinking of his own Vamana Avatara when he gave this definition to Krishna. Uttama Purushas Tvanya Paramatmeti Udahritaha Yo Lokatrayamavishya Bibharti Avyaya Ishvaraha. That Uttama Purusha was ready to belittle himself, to become a dwarf, a little boy, a brahmachari, in order to help not only Indra, but also help Mahabali at the same time. That is the reason why Vamana Avatara is celebrated gloriously, because the Purushottama demonstrates his compassion in the process of helping both Indra and Mahabali. We all know how after the Ksheerasagara Mathana, the Amrita was extracted. And of course, the Amrita of Amrita Sri Mahalakshmi also emanated. It was because of missing out on Sri Mahalakshmi's grace that Indra and all the Devatas lost their vigor, lost their power, lost their kingdom. And it is actually with Sri Mahalakshmi's grace, not because of Amrita, that they regained their lost vigor. And after regaining the lost vigor, their lost power, the Indra, along with all the Devatas, once again they regained the kingdom of all the higher lokas. The Asuras, led by Mahabali, were all vanquished. Thousands and thousands of Asuras were killed in the battle that ensued. Indra once again became the sovereign ruler of all the three lokas. So we must understand, when we say Indra, Indra stands for a position. Indra is a common noun, it's a term for a position. And in every Manvantara, there are different Indras. We saw this, every Manvantara has own Indra, different set of Devatas, different set of Saptarishis, and so on. And this position is a sacred position. Indra's position is an appointment done by Bhagavan to take care of certain cosmic duties. And no one can take over that position just like that. Just because one has power, one cannot. The greed for power and position has to be checked. And this was the falling of Mahabali. The greed, the power that he had, the greed in him overpowered him, and he took over the position of Indra, which did not belong to him. Now, Mahabali and Asura and all the Asuras died in the battle after the Ksheerasagara Mathana. But then Shukracharya had this unique power to restore life. And Mahabali and all the asuras got their lives back. And then they were all waiting to take revenge. And under the guidance of Shukracharya, they performed the Vishwajit Yajna. And through that, Mahabali gained enormous powers. And once again, gaining all these unimaginable powers, Mahabali attacked Indra once again. And once again, the Devatas were overpowered by the Asuras. And Devatas once again lost their kingdom. Now, the mother of Devatas, Aditi, now started to worry, because now her sons, Indra and all the other Devatas, no longer were able to rule all the three lokas. Indra was not able to perform the ordained duties. And Aditi Devi was concerned. She was worried. She was in deep grief. And then she approached Kashyapa. And Kashyapa recommended that Aditi Devi perform Payovrata, a very significant vrata propitiating Narayana. And Payovrata is meant to please Narayana. And through Payovrata, Aditi Devi not only pleased Narayana, she also asked for a boon for Narayana to be born in her very womb. So this Bhagavan took a decision. He chose once again Kashyapa and Aditi as his parents. And on the auspicious day of Shravana Nakshatra, Dwadasha Tithi, a unique combination, Bhagavan decided to descend through the womb of Aditi Devi. And when Bhagavan appeared, again we are reminded of his appearance during Krishna Avatara, where he appeared as he is. Similarly, when he took the avatara as Vamana, as son of Aditi and Kashyapa, he again appeared with his glorious form. And Shukracharya beautifully and vividly captures that wondrous scene of the birth of Vamana. Shukauvacha Ittam virinchastuta karma viryaha pradurbabhuvam adityam chaturbhujaha shanka gadabja chakraha vishangavasa Nalinayatekshanaha. Bhagavan is Pundarikaksha, having blooming eyes like petals of a lotus. And the moment Aditi and Kashyapa saw that little child, they knew it is Narayana who has descended as their very son. Shanka, Chakra, Gada. He was carrying all his emblems. And also, Virinchastuta Karma Virya. No, the one whose activities are always praised by Brahma. So just like how Brahma glorifies Bhagavan, the way they could see, they have heard of Brahma glorification, now they are actually seeing that right in front of them. Pishangavasa dressed in yellow garments. Bhagavan is known to wear yellow garments. Shyamavadato Jasaraja Kundalaha, with a hue that was like dark cloud bearing, rain bearing clouds. Jasaraja Kundalaha, Makara Kundala, kundalas that are in the shape of Makara, sharks. Tisholata Shri Vadanam Puman, Ullasa, dazzling. The beautiful face was so very enchanting, so very dazzling. Srivatsavaksha. So again, Srivatsa is the mark of Narayana. The Pundarikaksha is one sign, and the Srivatsa mark is the other sign for the Parabrahman. Srivatsavaksha Valayangadollasat Kirita Kanchi Guna Charu Nupuraha. He was wearing all his divine ornaments and he was looking resplendent, so very enchanting, electrifying. And both Kashyapa and Aditi were ecstatic. Both Kashyapa and Aditi were ecstatic looking at the Divya Mangala Vigraha of Bhagavan. And lo and behold, this little child, in the case of Krishna Avatara, Vasudeva and Devaki had to make a request. Please change your form, become human-like. But in this case, Aditi and Kashyapa did not submit the request. Bhagavan himself, he wanted to reveal his divine form to Aditi and Kashyapa. And immediately after that revelation, Bhagavan changes into a Vamana form. Vamana means dwarf. Vamana, a short little boy. So he immediately changes into a Vamana form. And then Kashyapa decides, now that he is blessed with a son, it is time to perform his Upanayana. We see in every avatar of Bhagavan, there is some aspect of Dharma that Bhagavan teaches, he demonstrates. If you take the case of Rama Avatara, we see Bhagavan demonstrating how to practice Ashrama Dharma, Grihastha Dharma. Rama is the embodiment of one who practiced Grihastha Dharma, who showed us the way. Now, through Vamana Avatara, Bhagavan demonstrates Brahmacharya Ashrama Dharma. So, therefore, the Upanayana that is performed to Vamana is of great significance. We see also through this Vamana Avatara, Bhagavan also demonstrating the importance and significance of this ritual of Upanayana. And Kashyapa arranges, and all the devatas arrive from all over, from all the lokas. Upanayana, the ceremony is conducted in a grand way. And then Surya Bhagavan comes in and he initiates Gayatri mantra. Normally, Brahmopadesha is done by one's father. But in this case of Vamana, Brahmopadesha is done by Surya Bhagavan himself. Now, Gayatri mantra. Om Bhurbhuvassoha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachotayat. What a divine coincidence. Today also happens to be the day of Gayatri Japa. And we are discussing Upanayana of Vamana Murti. And who did the initiation to Vamana? None other than Surya Bhagavan himself, who is the Devat. Every mantra in the Vedas have an associated Devata. There is an Adhisthana Devata for every mantra. And the Adhisthana Devata of Gayatri mantra is none other than Surya Bhagavan. And what a wonder that the Adhisthana Devata of Gayatri mantra was initiating Vamana with the Gayatri mantra. Now, Surya Bhagavan is just an instrument here. What is the message that Vamana is giving us? During Brahmopadesha, the Adhisthana Devata is Surya, but our prayer is to Surya Mandala Madhyavarti Narayana. When we chant the Gayatri mantra, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachotayat. Now, when we say Dhimahi, let us meditate on whom? Bhargaha, the one who has resplendent, beautiful form, who has auspicious Kalyana Gunas. He is the Deva and he is Savituhu. Savituhu can mean Surya. Savituhu is also the creator. And when we refer to Surya, he is Karma Chakshu, he is the Karma Sakshi, he is the Jagat Chakshuhu. And when we pray to Surya, we are not praying to Surya Bhagavan, we are praying to Surya Mandala Madhyavarti Narayana. And who is the Antaryami of Surya. When we do Surya Namaskara, what is important in Surya Namaskara is not the physical act. Physical act is only important, but it's not enough. In the process of doing prostration to Surya, we must be reminding of our surrender to Surya Mandala Madhyavarti Narayana. When we chant the Gayatri mantra, when we are meditating on the one, Prachodayat. Prachodayat means direct my mind, Dhimahi, my mind and intellect on the illustrious, resplendent Surya Narayana, that Parabrahman. Let my mind be fixed on him all the time, because he alone can illumine my mind. He alone can dispel the darkness in my mind. Therefore, Brahmopadesha during Upanayana assumes significance, because we have to understand that Bhagavan himself is initiating us to a mantra which helps us to fix our mind on him. So therefore, Brahmacharya is the beginning of a process where we fix our mind on the Parabrahman Narayana. Surya Bhagavan gives the Gayatri mantra. Brihaspati gives the Yajnopavita. To Narayana, no, this is the beauty. Narayana, Vishnu, is undergoing Upanayana. And to him, Brihaspati, the guru of Devatas, is giving Yajnopavita. What is Yajnopavita? Yajna Upavita. Upavita means that which surrounds. Yajna Upavita, that which surrounds the Yajna. What is that which surrounds Yajna? We must understand what is Yajna. Yajno vai Vishnuhu. All the Vedas declare Bhagavan Vishnu is Yajna. So what is Yajnopavita? That which surrounds, the thread which surrounds Yajna, which is Vishnu. Vishnu is our Antaryami, our Paramatma. Therefore, the Yajnopavita must remind us that that which is surrounding Vishnu, who is inside us, every time we look at the Yajnopavita, we must be reminded that the Paramatma is constantly witnessing whatever we do. So the Brahmachari on the path of knowing that Brahman must realize that Paramatma who is within him, not only as a witness, but ready to guide him whenever he needs. And Brihaspati, the guru of all the devas, is presenting Yajnopavita. Also, Yajnopavita, Yajnartham Upavita. Without the Upavita, there is no possibility to any Yajna, Vaidika Karma. This is also a qualification, assuming a position of responsibility for a Brahmachari. Brahmacharya, we must not mistake it as just a ritualistic way of life. Brahmacharya is applicable to one and all, male and female. Brahmacharya is essentially what? It's not just celibacy that is loosely translated. Brahmacharya is following the path of seeking Brahman, seeking Narayana. And therefore, and Brahmacharya is not just to be followed until one enters Grihastha, which means after that one stop seeking Narayana. It does not. The journey continues. It is just that the first process in our ashrama dharma is Brahmacharya, followed by Grihastha. If the first step, if the foundation is not properly built, Brahmacharya is the foundation. Grihastha is the palace that gets built on top. If the foundation is weak, whatever palace that we build is going to crumble very soon. That is the reason why Grihastha crumbles if Brahmacharya, the foundation is not properly laid. More importantly, if we need to build a 100-story tower, just imagine the kind of depth that the foundation requires. We cannot imagine building a 100-story tower in Grihastha if we have not adequately prepared ourselves through Brahmacharya ashrama. So therefore, every ashrama is equally important, more so, and Vamana himself is demonstrating the importance. Brihaspati is giving the Yajnopavita. Kashyapa, Vamana's father, Pita, gives him the Munja belt. Every time when we see Upanayana ceremony happening, there is a Munja grass belt that is tied. This is a sign of restraint. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaha. In the Gita, Krishna declares, how do I control my senses with my mind? Brahmacharya is a process where I get the stack, the direction of the stack correct. I get the stack which is senses, mind, which senses, manas, buddhi, eventually the atma. I have to get this hierarchy right. And this Munja belt is a symbolic of the restraint on the senses that a brahmachari has to wear. Kashyapa gives the Munja belt. Chandra Devata comes down and he gives the Palasha staff. Palasha, a brahmachari always holds a Palasha staff, a danda. Palasha Vriksha symbolizes memory. Memory is so very important. If we do not, and we all know this, if we do not cultivate the art and science of remembrance when we are young, we can never cultivate it after getting old. After 30, how many ever times we try to memorize one shloka, it seems not to reside anywhere in the mind. It just simply seems to vanish. But at the age of 3, magic happens. Therefore, this Palasha Danda that a brahmachari is supposed to carry is a palasha. The tree is supposed to be the power that gives memory. And memory and remembrance is very vital. And we all know that the very essence of our spiritual journey is about remembrance. If we are unable to direct our remembrance all the time towards Krishna, then we are not spiritually progressing. And therefore, Soma, Chandra. And why Chandra? Chandra is the Devata who governs the mind. And therefore, he gives Palasha Danda so that the mind, cultivation of remembrance can happen in the mind. And Aditi Devi gives the Kaupina, loin cloth, to the Brahmachari. We may all wonder, these days nobody wears Kaupina, all that. But here Kaupina, we have to understand the loin cloth, simplicity. A Brahmachari has to focus on acquiring the Brahmajnana and not on other possessions. And therefore, the loin cloth is essentially a symbolic representation of simplicity in life and living. Indra comes down and he gives the umbrella to the Brahmachari. Why carry an umbrella? Why should Brahmachari carry an umbrella? Umbrella again is a symbolic of the protection, not just from rains and from heat, but also from all the temptations that the Brahmachari faces in the world around. Very important. It is important to shield oneself before we make our mind strong so that the mind can control the senses. We must first somehow shield ourselves, because the temptations in the world are so very powerful. If we do not filter them away, we will just get carried away astray, especially in those impressionable ages or in the initial stages of spiritual progress. Indra gives the umbrella. Brahma gives his kamandalu to Vamana. That kamandalu, which is again symbolic of the water that is there. In our Shastras, before we do any karma, we have to purify ourselves. And water is a greatest purifier. We know it is only with water we can purify our body. Those of us who take bath know this. Some of us will take, now once in a while we can take bath. But what we are supposed to take bath at least once, if not twice. Water makes the body clean. Water is also used to clean the mind. You may wonder, how is water to clean the mind? Through water, the mantras give the necessary power. We get the power to cleanse the mind. All the mantras of purification are based through the water. Therefore, Brahma gives the kamandalu again for a brahmachari to be reminded that every act that he does, he or she, has to be pure. The Saptarishis give the kusha grass so that wherever the brahmachari sits, the place can be made clean and comfortable. Saraswati Devi comes and gives the akshamala, the mala of the beads, in order for, again, that a pointer that one should be constantly trying to meditate wherever one is. The akshamala is a representation of that. Kubera comes down, then we are all happy. Kubera has come. He don't give all the riches. He gives the Vikshapatra. Kubera is giving a Vikshapatra. Obviously, Kubera can only give a Vikshapatra because it is Vamana, Narayana standing there. What will Kubera give to Narayana? Everything that Kubera can ever think of belongs to Narayana. But the Vikshapatra here is a symbol that renunciation of ownership is the greatest wealth. And Vamana Murti, again, through this ritual, is demonstrating to us how the value of renunciation has to be cultivated right at the time, at that early age, possibly 7, 8, 9. We don't know what all we did at that time, but at least now we can make our 40s and 50s into 7s and 8s and 9s and start once again, reset button. And therefore, and then Parvati Devi, Uma Devi comes down and she gives the first bhiksha. She is the Annapurni who gives the first bhiksha to Vamana. Thus we see the entire Upanayana ceremony beautifully being performed, and every act in the Upanayana, Bhagavan himself demonstrates what is the significance. Therefore, if we need a good manual for what is Upanayanam, why Upanayanam, how Upanayanam, Vamana Avatara is the right source book. Just like how if we need a manual for Parinaya, Vivaha, Ramayana, Sita Kalyana is our source book. Similarly, Vamana Avatara is our source book for Upanayana Samskara. Now, Vamana is ready. Now, Vamana comes to know. He already knows, but people bring the news. On the banks of Narmada river, great Ashwamedha Yajna is being performed. Mahabali Chakravarthy is performing under the able guidance of Shukracharya, is now performing Ashwamedha Yajna. Now, if he completes the Ashwamedha Yajna now, Indra will not ever get back his throne again from Mahabali. Now, obviously, the timing of the descent of Vamana is exactly to disrupt that Ashwamedha Yajna. Now, Vamana immediately decides that he has to visit, and obviously now the Bhiksha has started. So with the Bhiksha Patra, Vamana, we saw that he also received the Krishna Jina, deer skin. Krishna Jina means, we see in the olden days, now anymore it is not being done. Along with all the Palashadanda, along with Munja, also Krishna Jina is given, because we have seen all the great rishis, all the acharyas we see seated on the deer skin. We see that. Now we may wonder, again, a new activist says, see there, deer skin. We must understand, the deer skin is not by killing the deer skin is after a deer naturally dies. So there is no violence here involved at all. Deer skin is meant for several purposes. It is also meant to cure a lot of skin diseases. Also, it is meant to insulate one from negative energies. Deer skin is also meant to maintain the body temperature. And therefore, Brahmachari wears a deer skin. Now, there was another reason why Vamana, when he started going, Aditya said, why are you wearing this deer skin all over? He closed his entire body tightly with a deer skin as he walked out, wearing an Angavastra kind of a thing. Why did Bhagavan do that? As he walked hurriedly towards Mahabali, Bhagavan realized it's very important for him to close his Vakshasthala tightly, because he knows that if his Vakshasthala is open and if the glance of Srila Mahalakshmi falls on Mahabali, there is no way that he can get back everything, all the wealth that Mahabali conquered from Indra, because Sri Mahalakshmi with her compassion will only give Mahabali more and more. Therefore, Bhagavan realized that he must cover her, and therefore with the Shirajina he covered. Also, because of which nobody could recognize who Vamana was. Now, we must understand that it is that Shrivatsa mark based on which one can recognize whether it is Narayana himself. So therefore, when he walked as Vamana, not many people knew. He was only a dwarf-like small boy, and therefore not many recognized who he was in spite of his effulgence. But then later, when we transformed into Trivikrama, obviously the Srivatsa mark was clearly visible and Sri Mahalakshmi was seated on that. So therefore, Bhagavan as Vamana rushed towards Mahabali in his Brahmachari Rupa, carrying the umbrella, carrying the Palashastak. And then as the Ashwamedha Yajna was progressing, everybody was thrilled. They could see this effulgent form, resplendent Brahmachari, short, small in form, but glorious looking. And as he walked, everybody was pulled naturally towards him, and Mahabali started running towards him. Mahabali also was looking for giving, he was also giving charity to everyone who was visiting Ashwamedha Yajna. And therefore he decided that he must immediately welcome this great Brahmachari, and he approached him. And then Mahabali was shocked when he learned what the Brahmachari wanted. Mahabali said, you ask anything that you want. Vamana said, all that I need is just 3 steps of land, 3 feet of land. And Mahabali looked at his feet, tiny feet. Such 3 steps of those tiny feet of land. He was furious. He felt very bad. He felt insulted. Mahabali also, while he was a great noble ruler, he also had a big ego. That was his problem. The greed and ego was the problem. He felt insulted. How can you ask me? Look at me, I am the emperor of all the lokas, and you have come here all the way just to ask for 3 feet of land. Ask anything that you want. Ask any loka that you want, I will give you. But Vamana said, all that I need is just 3 feet. And Mahabali, had to give up his, therefore before I was about to agree, Shukracharya immediately intervened. Shukracharya could see that this Vamana was none other than Narayana himself. Then Shukracharya turned around and stopped Mahabali and said, you must not venture into this transaction. This little boy is Narayana in disguise. He has come to take away all your wealth, and therefore, please do not promise anything, do not give away anything to this boy. But Mahabali being Mahabali, his ego being greater than everything else, and having made that promise to Vamana that he shall give whatever he asks, he had to go ahead and make that decision. And finally, Yajamana Swayam Tasya Srimad Padayugam Muda Avanijyavahan Murdhri Tadapo Vishpapavanihi. Mahabali immediately washed the lotus feet of Vamana and took the water and sprinkled the water on his head, as is the custom of showing respect towards the brahmachari and essentially acceding to Vamana's request. The moment Mahabali said yes to Vamana and washed his lotus feet, something magical happened then and there. Tad Vamanam Rupam Avardhatadbhutam Arehe Anantasya Gunatrayatmakam Bhukam Dishodyav Vivarah Payodayaha Tiryan Riddevo Rishayo Vedasata. Lo and behold, everyone was shocked immediately to see that little Vamana Murti suddenly transforming. Vamana transforms into Trivikrama. Then and there, lo and behold, they saw this not just an ordinary, large, gigantic form. Bhagavan revealed his Vishwarupa. Now again, this is another instance where Bhagavan reveals his Vishwarupa. Now here, it is not to one person. It is not just Mahabali. Everyone who was congregated on the banks of Narmada there, they all were this witness to the spectacle, the wonder of wonders, the awe-inspiring form of Bhagavan. Arehe Anantasya Gunatrayatmakam Bhuhu Kam Dishaha Dyaur Vivaraha Payodayaha Tatraikastam Jagatkastam Pravibhaktam Anekadha Apashyad Deva Devasya Sharire Pandavastatha. How to Arjuna, Bhagavan showed in one small part of his form, the entire universe was seen, animate, inanimate, moving, non-moving, all the lokas, everything that one could ever imagine being one part of his form. Mahabali, Shukracharya, all the sages who congregated on the banks of Narmada, they could see such a wonder of wonders, the Vishwarupa of Vamana. Vamana has become Trivikrama. Kaye balistasya mahavibhutehe sahatvikacharya sadasya yetat tadasya vishwam trigunam gunatmake bhutendriyartasyaya jiva yuktam. Kale balistasya mahavibhutehe. In that form, in that body of Bhagavan, of great opulences, Mahabali could see, along with everyone who is, all the acharyas, all members present there, Dadarsa Vishwam Trigunam Gunatmake. This entire universe, which is made up of the three gunas, all of a sudden, this entire created world could be seen as one small part of that humongous Vishwarupa of Bhagavan. Dadarsha Vishwam Trigunam Gunatmake Bhutendriyartashaya Jiva Yuktam. They could see all kinds of created beings all of a sudden. They could see all kinds of senses and sense objects, all kinds of jivas, all kinds of actions happening. This is another kind of battle that was going on there. Just like how Arjuna could see warriors, he could see war happening between Kauravas and Pandavas. In the case of Arjuna, we all know what was the purpose of Vishwarupa. Arjuna's sense of doership was so very strong. Arjuna falsely believed that he is the doer. If we look at the root cause of Arjuna's grief, Arjuna believed that he was the one who is going to kill the people on the other side of the battlefield. It is a strong sense of doership, and it is that sense of doership that had to be annihilated. So in the case of the Vishwarupa revealed to Arjuna, Bhagavan ensured that Arjuna's doership was completely killed. Arjuna realized that he is ultimately, Krishna is the doer and he just can participate. He has no role to play in determining the consequences of any action. That was the purpose of the Vishwarupa revealed to Arjuna. Now, the sense of doership was strong in Arjuna. In the case of Mahabali, the sense of ownership was very strong. Mahabali believed that he owned everything now. Now that he defeated Indra, now that he defeated all the devatas and he occupied all the lokas, he thought he is now the ruler of all rulers, and he thought he owned all the urdhvalokas and the adholokas. It is that strong sense of ownership that had to be annihilated. Therefore, this Vishwarupa of Bhagavan is to show to Mahabali that, hey Mahabali, you own nothing. Nothing belongs to you. Everything belongs only to me. You think you have conquered all the lokas. You think you are now the possessor of all the lokas. What you think is a myth. And therefore, through this, the transformation in Mahabali starts to happen. When Mahabali starts to see what he thought belonged to him, he realized now everything belongs to Narayana. That transformation happens. Now, the transaction that Mahabali wanted to do with Vamana, the transaction now transforms into devotion. Mahabali now is in his heart is kindled, the devotion is kindled. He starts to realize that ultimately everything belongs to Bhagavan. When the Upanishad says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkim cha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitaha magridat kasyavas vidhanam. The route to gratification is renunciation, the Upanishad says. We can enjoy only when we renounce. Unfortunately, we think otherwise. We think enjoyment comes when we possess. But then, life repeatedly teaches us, the more we try to possess, the more we get driven into the abyss of sorrow. The less we try to possess, the greater we can experience joy. So, here through renunciation, we actually can have gratification. Now, the same, that truth that everything belongs to Bhagavan, he pervades everything and therefore he owns everything, that reality strikes Mahabali. Now, Mahabali originally was thinking, I will give land. Now, this revelation changes his pledge. There is a mind shift that happens from, I will give land to you, hey Bhagavan. No, how can I give what already belongs to you? It's not the land I will give you myself. Only thing that I give is what I think is myself. Even that is not mine. What I think myself is also not mine, but at least I can give that back. I can give back the notion that I own myself. Even that is only a notion, because ultimately the Atma is also a Vastu that belongs to the Paramatma. And it is just that notion that I am independent. Now Mahabali is transformed from I will give what I own to I will give you myself, hey Bhagavan. And therefore the Vishwarupa does that magic. It does the magic not only to Mahabali, thanks to the revelation of the Vishwarupa, Trivikrama also now captures the attention of all the beings across all the lokas. Sunandamukya upatashturisham parshadamukyaha sahalokapalaihi. All the higher being, every loka, Govaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satya. So Satyaloka is the loka of Brahma. But in all the other lokas, Tapoloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, Swarga, all those, they have all congregated. They all are taking in the beauty, the magnetic beauty. This is again another beautiful aspect of the Vishwarupa. What we see here. Spurat Kiritangamina Kundalaha, Sivatsa Ratnottama Mekalambarehi, Madhuvrata Shrag Vanamalaya Vritaha. The beauty here is together, Bhagavan is demonstrating two very important things. His infinite form, his Vishwarupa is infinite, which means it's all pervading, all encompassing, all consuming. At the same time, they are also able to see Bhagavan's beautiful Saundarya Lavanya Atimanohara Divya Rupa. He is bringing two things together, his infinite form and his finite conceivable Saundarya form also. That's Sunanda Mukhya Upatashturisham Parshada Mukhyaha Sagalokapalaha Spurat Kiritangada Meena Kundalaha Shivatsa Ratnottama Mekalambarehi Madhuvrata Shrak Manamalaya Vrataha. They are able to see everything is part of Bhagavan. They are also able to see he also transcends what they are seeing. He is beyond everything that they can even conceive of what is universe. And they are also able to see, just like how Arjuna for a moment was completely, he was taken aback. He did not know what was happening. It was all resplendence. It was all light. It was all thousands and thousands of suns coming together, which was blinding him. All of a sudden, he could also identify a beautiful form with Kirita, Kundala, Chakra, Shanka. The same thing is happening to all the being, all the Sunanda, all the Sanat Kumaras, all the Devatas. They are also able to see Bhagavan's beautiful form, wearing all divine ornaments, carrying all his emblems, presenting himself, that divine form which is reserved only for a select few. Madhuvrata Shrak Vanamalaya Vrataha Rajarajan Bhagavan Urukramaha. That is why he is called Urukrama. Urukrama, Trivikrama is called Urukrama. Urukrama is, Krama means step. Krama means, why he is called Trivikrama? Because he is the one who has taken 3 steps. He is Urukrama because these steps are not ordinary steps. They are extraordinary steps. Every step that he has taken, he has done extraordinary things. Krama also means deeds, cheshtitas. Urukrama, the one who does Atimanusha cheshtitas. Here, what is the Atimanusha cheshtita? He is revealing his Vishwarupa. At the same time, they are also able to intimately connect with the Vishwarupa through his Divyamangala Vigraha. Both happening at the same time. This is what is very important for us to realize. There is this constant debate that keeps going on, is to, if Bhagavan pervades and permeates everything, is he formless or is he has form? The beauty is, Bhagavan is formless and has a glorious form, both together at the same time. And that is exactly what through the Vamana Avatara, Trivikrama Avatara, Bhagavan is showing. So, on one hand, what he has done, Chitim Padaikena Baler Vichakrame Navasharirena Dishtabuhubihi, occupying everything that they stood across the lokas. His whole form, his body is traversing all across the lokas, and his one foot has occupied the surface, which essentially means Bhuhu and everything underneath is. So all the lower lokas, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Patala, Mahatala, all that including Bhuloka, everything is measured, occupied by 1 foot of Bhagavan. Now, the other foot, what he is doing, the other foot is traversing through the Urdhva Lokas. So, this is something unimaginable that Trivikrama is doing here. And by traversing, Padam Dvitiyam Kramatas Trivistapam Navai Tritiya Tadiyam Anu Api Urukramasyangri Upari Upari Ataha Mahajjanabhyam Tamasah Param Gataha. The second foot of Bhagavan, Trivikrama, as it traverses through Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, finally it reaches Satyaloka. It's reaching, and it as is extending all the beings. Essentially, in this way, Bhagavan is also consecrating every part of this created universe, ensuring that his lotus feet is associated with every part of this created universe, making every atom sacred. And as the lotus foot of Bhagavan Trivikrama reaches Satyaloka, Satyam Samikshabja Bhavo Nakendubihi Ataswadha Madhyutir Avruto Abhyagat Marichi Mishra Rishayo Brihat Pratah Sanadadaya Naradeva Yoginaha. Brahma in Satyaloka, the Satyaloka is resplendent, it shines. All of a sudden it seems the effulgence of Brahmaloka, Satyaloka completely darkens, is overpowered with some other resplendence. Brahma could see the toenail of Trivikrama so very resplendent, the toenail more resplendent than thousands and millions of suns put together. all of a sudden that resplendence is experienced by Marichi, all the rishis, Brahma, everyone, and then the whole Satyaloka is blessed by the lotus foot of Trivikrama traversing to Satyaloka. So all Brahma immediately approaches along with Sanat Kumaras and all the other rishis. Dhatu kamandalu jalam tad urukrumasya padavajena pavitraya narendra pardhuni abhun nabhasi sa patati nimashtihi lokatrayam bhagavato vishadeva kirtihi. Immediately Brahma takes that opportunity. Also, you need that presence of mind then and there to immediately serve that lotus feet of Bhagavan as Bhagavan's Sripada reaches Satyaloka immediately with his Kamandalu, with the waters, the cosmic waters that are used for creation. The waters that Brahma uses for cosmic creation, from the Kamandalu, he takes it and he washes the lotus foot of Trivikrama along with all the Sanat Kumaras and the rishis, and that water immediately transforms into what eventually was called Mandakini, that travels through all the higher lokas. Eventually, through Bhagirata Prayatna, it was brought down as Ganga, which landed on the matted hair of Paramashiva on Bhuloka. And here, Vamana Avatara, again we see, is where the birth of Ganga in Satyaloka happens. Padhumni abhun nabasisa patati nimashti lokatrayam bhagavato vishadeva kirtihi. Now, Bhagavan has measured all the Urdhvalokas. He has occupied the entire Bhumi along with all the Adholokas as well. What is left now? There is nothing left. One intelligent question that can be asked. Now we all know that the third step, we all know the Vamana Avatara, the third step is finally placed on the Mahabali's head. One very intelligent boy stood up and asked, how is it even possible? Bhagavan's one foot covered the entire Adholoka, including Bhumi. His second foot covered all the Urdhvalokas. Now, which means Bali Chakravarthy is also on Bhuloka. His one foot has already covered everything. There is nothing left anymore. And everything that in the creation is part of him. Where is the space? How can we say that there is space which is Bali's head, which is outside? If we say Bali's head is outside for Bhagavan to keep the third step, then we are saying that there is something outside of his creation. So this intelligent boy stood up and asked, how is it possible? Great question. You must understand, when Bhagavan asked, where should I keep the third step? It is not physically on Bali's head. It is essentially, the third step is on Mahabali's ego. It is that surrender. Bhagavan is not asking for a physical space for landing his third step. There is no physical space outside of what is there, which is already part of his Vishwarupa. It is essentially Mahabali, the transformation of Mahabali. It's a move from being a part of this creation to realizing being a property of the creation. Mahabali, including his head, belongs to Narayana. Now, therefore, it is that realization which Bhagavan was seeking. Bhagavan was not seeking Mahabali's head. Bhagavan was seeking what was inside Mahabali's head. The realization that I belong to Narayana. That was the third step. The third step was stamping on the ego of Mahabali, not the physical stamping on his head. Mahabali realizes, when the part realizes that it belongs to the whole, the part realizes it belongs to the whole takes care of the part. We can even make it a little bit more interesting. When the part realizes it belongs to the whole, WHOLE, the whole makes the part truly whole, WHOLE. We can go on extending this and play riddles with it, but that's not the the purpose here. When the part realizes that I belong only to Bhagavan, and in that belongingness lies the fulfillment of my mission of taking birth, and Bhagavan then therefore gives the highest reward. The highest reward that Mahabali got here was he was not crushed. Bhagavan decided to push him down into Sutala Loka. Then and there, he was, because you must remember the solemn pledge that Nrasimha gave to Prahlada. We have to rewind and go back to pre-summer days. No, not even pre-summer, pre-yatra. No, when we did the 7th skanda of Nrasimha Avatara, where after the Prahlada Stuti, Nrasimha made one promise that I shall never ever kill, slay anyone who belongs to your lineage. Now Mahabali belongs to the lineage of Prahlada, the grandson of Prahlada, blessed by Prahlada himself. And therefore, Mahabali was not slayed. Bhagavan pushed him down deep into Sutala Loka, also with the assurance and the promise that in the next Manvantara, Mahabali will be given the position, the Indra, position of the Indra. So Mahabali wanted to be the Indra, or rather take the position of Indra. That is why he went and overpowered and did everything that he did. So Bhagavan put him to his proper position and said, if this is the reward that you want, I will give you. You will have to wait, because the Indra position for this Manvantara has already been taken. So thus Vamana gives back the sovereignty of all the lokas to Indra, and he also abundantly blesses Mahabali by giving him that assurance and protection that in the Sutala Loka, he will continue to rule the Sutala Loka and he will continue to stay protected there. Mahabali continues to be a bhakta of Narayana and continues to wait until the next Manvantara to take over what he sought. Thus, through Vamana Avatara, we see how Bhagavan ensures that he resets the order in the universe whenever required, and through this measurement, through the Trivikrama form, he shows how he pervades and permeates his entire universe in order to sustain and support us. And therefore, whenever we chant the Gita Shloka of who is that Purusha, Uttama Purusha, it also helps us to visualize that glorious Vamana Avatara, where he demonstrated what he taught in the Gita. Uttama Purushas Tvanyah Paramatmetyudahritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Bhibarti Avyaya Ishvaraha. Savam Sri Krishna.